Ready to find your flow? AFSA's got you covered.
That's right. The hands-on training lab in Richardson, Texas is where you trade PowerPoints for pipe wrenches. Real tools, real systems, and real experience you can actually use.
And if you're ready to test your skills, check out the hands-on NFPA 25 workshops, where you'll inspect, test, and maintain live sprinkler systems and fire pumps. No simulations, no fluff, just pressure, flow, and know-how.
It's the perfect way to get under pressure without cracking under it.
So get fired up and register today at firesprinkler.org. Spots fill faster than a charged branch line.
AFSA, where you don't just learn the code, you live it. Welcome to the K Factor podcast, where we turn up the heat on all things fire protection. Brought to you by the American Fire Sprinkler Association, this podcast sparks conversations about the latest technology, trends, and tools shaping the industry. Join the AFSA tech team as we fan the flames of innovation in fire safety.
Welcome to another episode of the K Factor podcast. We are here with, again, we have Eric on the board, so we'll see how this goes. But our guest today is Justine VanNostran.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got it.
Oh.
I'm very proud of you.
It took me twice.
On my first name. Yeah.
Yes.
The E gets everybody. Mm-hmm. It gets everybody.
He's too focused on the last name.
Facts. So could you tell us a little bit about your role in your company?
Sure. So I'm with Colonial Fire Protection Systems out of Rochester, New York. So we're Western New York. They're the company's second generation, family owned. I was hired in 2016 as an inspections manager after working in the radio industry and being a bartender. And honestly, I like telling everybody that I was the bartender for my bosses. And the beauty of them was they were so passionate about their industry that it was like, well, I want to do something that's that engaging and exciting and that you feel so passionate about, that like they're going to be able to kind of invest in you. So they brought me on. I took over the inspections management and didn't really have any idea about anything about the fire sprinkler industry other than what they knew and what I was going to try to figure out on my own. And that's kind of what happened was I was given an NFPA 25 handbook. So not like the code book, but the one that's like, let's break it all down. And tried to kind of teach myself a little bit about that. I manage a lot of our inspections contracts, the paperwork side of things, coordinating deficiencies within our customers and our service department. So a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're getting out to the field now too, right?
Actually, since as part of the ITM program and after the first half of it and coming here to Dallas to do the testing, I ended up in the field more or less full time after that because we've had some just changes within the departments and, manpower changes. It's something everybody's facing. And I ended up needing to be in the field just to fulfill our contracts. So I took a lot of the information I had from being in the field with some of our other technicians, shadowing them, and then what I learned here and started having to apply it like on the daily and have been pretty much in the field full time since.
Awesome. Which side do you like better?
It depends on the day.
Okay, fair enough.
It really does, because there's some days where I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be in the field right now. When it's 15 degrees outside,
that's rough.
And you have to walk into the different apartment buildings and their riser rooms,
right?
You don't want to be in the field.
Yeah.
So
something's frozen.
It's probably the only days that the paperwork doesn't sound more appealing.
Some days I'm just like, I just need an office day because I just need to catch up on all the paperwork and stuff. But, we've got a really good support staff and our technicians are pretty on top of it. So, whenever we document things like that. So it's not that bad. It is really nice to be able to have the interaction with the customers to fully explain what's happening and give them that guidance of, here's what I see. I'm a new inspector. I have fresh eyes on this building. Here's the issues. Because I get a lot of why didn't we catch this sooner? And that seems to be something that constantly happens. And it's like, well, we just have new people. So we're trying to spice it up, if you will, so that way we're not leaving you in the lurch as the customer with any sort of deficiencies.
Well, and as much as customers like the consistency of having the same inspector just because they build that rapport, it is good to get fresh eyes on it just because everybody, regardless of your training, you're going to have a little bit of a different, background or key items that you're looking for. So even if Josh and I were to go do the same walkthrough of a building. I'm sure we're both going to pick up on different things. Same if
Mine would be more thorough, though. Just saying.
okay, sure, we'll see about that.
What a flex.
I have a more thorough ITM report.
I don't know. You spent more time. You spent more time in the office recently. I might have you now.
Fair enough. So, have you found the industry and your role to be as engaging as your first conversations?
I found that a lot of my background on other things has helped make it better. So the customer service side of things, I like talking to people. I like providing the education as well. So I find a lot of times that the property owners don't know anything. They don't understand that they should be doing X, Y, and Z. So being able to have that conversation and being able to explain it to them I like to say it's like they, explain it to me like I'm 5.
Right.
Really kind of being able to make it accessible to them. So not dumbing it down, but explaining to them and being like, I could provide you guidance in the code book if you need to see X, Y, and Z. And then it gives them a little bit more pride in what they're doing as well. So they don't feel like, I don't know anything about this. They get the hands up. I don't know. You tell me, you're the expert. And it's like, well, just for the record, this is still your responsibility.
Right.
So I found that I used to do training within my radio job as well. It wasn't just being on the air, but I would do sales training, teaching them how to write commercials, how to make them accessible to people in the field and in the world. So I've, been able to talk in front of people for a while. So it's nice to have that one-on-one rapport. And it also builds so much more of that customer relationship and that security in you as a person, as a technician, and within your company.
What's your, being in that cold weather, what's your biggest pinch point in terms of deficiency?
I found a lot of frozen drum drips lately. The heating aspect, so keeping the riser rooms heated. So you have a lot of those apartment buildings that have the outdoor accessible riser rooms that don't have the heating in it. So the biggest fear is walking into there and it's cold. Why is it cold? So it's usually one of the bigger ones.
Do you spend a lot of time with your customers teaching them about the drum drips and proper operation? And
yes,
a lot of time.
Yeah. So if we have the accessible drum drips, so I have one customer who's really on top of it, but they're also like a rocket propellant producing company. So they have to be on top of that. And they have 3 people on their safety team. So, we were doing a walkthrough one day on the inspection, and I'm walking through like, do you see this? Do you see that? Did you miss this? Did this just happen? It was like completely frozen through. It was wild. Like the whole drum drip was busted.
Yeah, that's a site you don't want to mess up on.
No. But we're only there quarterly. They do daily, like weekly walkthroughs.
Right.
I was like, when did this happen?
Yeah.
When did you notice this? And she's like, I didn't even really pay attention. So now it's more on their list after a potentially travesty ridden situation. It could have been worse. It thankfully wasn't, but so they just waited for it to thaw out. They had a whole plan in place. It was just like, oh boy, that was bad.
But sometimes those are the best teaching moments of like, we've hammered this into you so many times and you kind of shrugged it off, but now you have something that happened, right? Luckily we didn't have things go terribly wrong, but okay, this is why we drill it into you. This is why it's important. Now you understand the gravity of the situation.
Yeah.
So sometimes that's a good moment to have when things don't go terribly wrong for you.
It was one of the best of the worst case scenarios. So like the whole drum drip below the top shutoff valve was frozen. So we could still close the upper valve and be like, okay, we're going to lock the air into place and like just know that this needs to be taken care of. And so now they're like, we watch it every week. We go by and make sure everything's fine after they got it repaired. And I was like, I'm so proud of you. Our baby's all grown up. That's what it feels like.
An interesting change in the 2026 edition was we noticed that it said frozen pipe. And there wasn't many thaw descriptions and what to do with it. So they changed it to frozen water in pipe.
Oh.
With the technical concept that you don't want to thaw the pipe because it's technically in a frozen state. Like this was a whole discussion.
Wow.
And I'm like, how did we even get here? Anyways, in 2026 edition, there should be more guidance. And we're trying to thaw the water that's frozen in the pipe, not necessarily the pipe itself.
It's the explaining, like it's the peanut butter and jelly rule. Like how do you make peanut butter and jelly and how do you explain it to somebody who's never made a peanut butter and jelly before? What are those steps? And having to be that specific. Like if you have a very literal child, so my son is 6 and you tell him, just give me 1 second. He'll count to 1.
Yeah.
And then we'll expect you to do something. So it's like, all right, man. Like, okay, so if we're going literal, we got to break it apart.
But with Uncrustables.
That's a good point. Always a workaround.
That's kind of how the committee meetings feel sometimes.
But that's what I mean. Like, what's the exception to the rule and what's the rule to the exception?
So with some of the conversation that you've had, both being in the field and in the office, could you give me a perspective from the office side? Maybe we have office people who didn't necessarily come out of the field, and maybe some suggestions or advice for them considering the other, and flip-flop that too.
So in regards to going from the office to the field, and also I have a unique position because I feel like I didn't know anything. And some days I still feel like, well, I don't know how to do X, Y, and Z. And you have to lean on everybody else for help. There has to be a general understanding of, I'm going to almost pretend like I don't know anything to make sure we're on the same page. Like, explain to me how you do it so that way I know what we're doing, what's the common goal. So I'm very much like the project manager of, let's figure out what we're all doing. I like to have the understanding and like, okay, well, tell me what you're doing. I don't want to just go out there and be a helper that sits behind you and says nothing. I'm the little kid that's like, what you doing? What are you pulling? What's that called? Where's the flashlight? Can I see it? Like, I want to know what's happening because they're not always going to be around. And what happens if we get the call and somebody's got to go out there and like, hey, explain to me what you saw. And like, I have a visual perception of it. So for me, it's about constantly kind of being in the mix without inhibiting the workflow of people, because I know that a lot of people don't necessarily want to be teachers, and that's fair. So it's really about kind of figuring out when I can ask questions. Like, I pay attention to the personality types of who I'm working with is a lot of it. And that's my bartending skills coming into play of like, who are you? How do you communicate? Because if I'm going to ask you questions, I want to make sure that I know what I'm supposed to be asking you and what you're willing to answer to, which isn't fair because it really should just be like a constant, we're all here for the same thing.
Right.
But in regards to it's always about asking questions for me. Like, explain to me what you're doing. So that to me is like the biggest key takeaway is I'm going to be asking you questions because I don't know. And I don't want to give you the opportunity to make it seem like I'm not supposed to be here when it's really about learning what we're all doing.
So what about people who can't get out in the field? Because you've had a unique experience. There's a lot of office people who are pricing or trying to work through deficiencies in customers, but don't get that opportunity.
I think then it's about leaning on your technicians. Because before I was in the field, it was like, okay, a customer's asking me for this. Well, how many hours does it take? How many hours would you take for it? There shouldn't be an assumption on it. Like, what are the details of it that I'm missing? Is there anything specific I need to know? And even being in the field, sometimes like people gatekeep that information. It's like, why are we doing that? If we're trying to make it the best, experience for the customer and make your job easier,
right?
Why don't we plan for that out? So a lot of it is just leaning on your technicians then. And then again, still asking the question of, what am I missing? What else do I need to know? And I think that's part of it is, what else do I need to know? Don't assume that you know, and don't assume that they're going to give you all the information. Ask like, is there, if you have a warehouse, do you need a lift? If you have, and it sounds simple, but those are things that like, hey, they're due for a 5-year testing. Okay, well, let's take a look at the ceiling. Tell me if I'm going to need a lift. Okay, I'll make the assumption on this one, verifying that information. It's trust but verify. That's what we've talked about.
So coming out of the office side and jumping into the field, have you found that your descriptions going back towards deficiencies are a bit more in depth, just so that the person that's kind of following up on that has that information? And then is that something that when you're interacting with the people who've been in the field the whole time, not necessarily on the office side, coaching them into, okay, this is the extra information that like seems unimportant in the moment, but we really do need, and here's why?
It's assuming that, yes. So a lot of it, yes, I do try to be more specific about what it is that we're doing. And even when quoting out work as well, because I still have to quote out some of our deficiency work, explaining in the quote a 5-year internal pipe exam. Well, what does that mean? Well, here's some of the steps, and this is all per NFPA 25, and like making the reference to it. But like, these are the things that we're going to be doing. It's not just saying we're going to do a 5-year internal pipe exam, because what does that mean? So I don't want to arm them enough where like they're going to, fight me on it too much, but also just being like, here's additional information so you know what to expect.
So do you have any good guidance for those people who have spent their whole time in the field? Just in general?
Well, that's the thing is like one of the things I have to do is go back and help bring everybody else up to that standard. So I'm very lucky in that our company we believed very strongly in the ITM program. So we have sent 7 or so people through this program from the get-go. So we believe really strongly in it. So we have a lot of those reference points from the varying degrees as the program has gone on too. So being able to come out of it was like the newest, freshest set. I think you guys were some of like the newer teachers that came in when I came on. And then, being able to take all that and having to say, hey, these are some of the things that we do. And I do it little by little. I try to not like overwhelm my other technicians, but I'm like, we should really be doing X, Y, and Z. So, and then I think one of the things is just trying to get everybody up to speed on some of that stuff, but making it so it's, again, accessible and it's not an overload so that they feel like they're not doing their job well. Because they are. It's just here we need to fine tune some of that.
Right.
For those who've been in the field for 20 years doing the same inspection.
I know we've talked about customer service up until this point, but to your point, a lot of the field people are either gatekeeping some information or we have to slowly steer them. So how have you been able to either change that culture or stress the importance of customer service in your roles?
So some of it is just reminding them that they need to touch base with the customer again. Like even if you've been doing an inspection on a place for 5 years, you still need to remind them you have deficiencies here. These are things that we are, marking up for you that you need to address. Just because an AHJ isn't enforcing it at the moment doesn't mean that it shouldn't still be addressed. So those are little things like that, because sometimes the customer's like, well, I've never been told that. We always get those kinds of, this is the first time I'm hearing it, and it's like, well, that's fair. And I appreciate that you feel that way. However, I can show you the deficiencies listed on there. Whether or not our technicians have mentioned it to you recently, that's fair and that's on us. So we will take that, but these are still things that you have to address. So some of it is, kind of, it's that whole, like you're dealing with, like if you're dealing with a hot-headed bull kind of a thing, you just kind of pace slowly. And a lot of it is just acknowledging that they have a problem,
right? That
they have an issue, they have a pain, if you will, in the sales side of things. Acknowledging it and saying, yes, if we have fault, I'll take the fault on it. I'll acknowledge that we messed up in X, Y, and Z, but here's how we move forward. So, for example, scheduling wise, I had a customer who was like, I wanted 24 to 48 hours notice. Well, the person who scheduled it missed that little note. So then I had to deal with the angry customer. And I said, look, man, I totally understand. If this is a bigger issue and you don't want us doing it, I totally understand. Let me find out where the communication messed up. Like I do the deep dive. I do the due diligence of figuring out what happened, going back and reporting to them. I don't ignore them. I try not to anyway, but I don't ignore them. And I try to acknowledge the pain, acknowledge where we messed up, and say, how do you want us to move forward? What's going to make you happy in this moment? If it's something that, how do you want, and then I sometimes go a little overboard where I was like, hey, here's how this went. Here's what the bill's going to look like. So you're not surprised. Here's how this is going to go.
Bartending skills, a little poor.
Yeah. Just like a little nudge. Send you a little bottle. It's fine. So it's some stuff like that. It seems what may seem like extra work for some people is the bit that they need to feel confident in your relationship and confident in knowing that you're there to help them, not just take their money.
But sometimes that little bit of extra, the 10 minutes of extra time spent just doing a deep dive really helps build that relationship with that customer. And that's the thing that they're going to remember more than anything. They're not going to remember, oh yeah, this person was so great. They found all of these deficiencies for me that were technically accurate, right? No, they're going to remember that, hey, this person, when things went wrong, went out of their way to at least get me an answer and improve the situation, improve the relationship. That's what sticks with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems, and like I said, it seems like it's a little thing, but it's really what you feel like is going to be, that's extra work. Just try it. Honestly, just try it. Because they want to, sometimes you have the customers who need to know everything and the ones who will just take you at face value. But if you give them that little bit more, they're going to feel more confident in your relationship because they know that you're giving them the details that they don't know that they need. They don't know what they don't know until they don't know it. Right?
That's, something that I've stated in life in general, right? Is communication causes failed relationships. You look at every single relationship, professional, customers, personal, you kind of go back and you're like, oh, well, probably could have communicated better there.
And it's the little things too between company, technicians, the gatekeeping aspect where there's an assumption made probably from field technicians about what you should and shouldn't know. What do you know about it? Well, then you should know it. And why are you asking? And it's like, we should just be continuing to be on the same page. Because that's the thing we have to figure out and remember is we're all here to do the same thing. Our job altogether is to provide the proper life safety and fire protection safety for our customers.
I think it goes both sides too. I've also seen a lot of companies, I don't know if you can shed some light to this, that won't necessarily give their field people what's in the contract in terms of what they need to do, which is crazy to me.
Right. I have that conversation as well within our technicians. We're small enough where it's just a simple phone call typically,
right?
But understanding what the scope is. So thankfully we have a system where this is why I'm particular about how we write up the quotes for things. This is what this includes, the details of it, so that they understand, and also that the field technicians understand that this is what we're aiming to do. The restrictions on it, what we shouldn't be doing, it's in the quote typically. And then when it comes to the inspection sides of things, I already mentioned this to Eric, I want to revamp my own for my company, taking into consideration the stuff that we've talked about, so that the scope of work is clear for both us, technicians, and the customer, of what we will and won't do, what's added, what's not added, what's included in your contract, what's not. So I don't know about some other companies in regards to the scope of things not being fully passed down, which is very confusing because I don't know why you wouldn't have that understanding, but that might just be a
battle that we're fighting.
It might just be a privileged problem for me to not have, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and that's the other thing when having conversation with your techs is once the report's done, it shouldn't be the first time that they see those issues.
Right.
Like communication.
Right.
Should start when you start finding them in the walk around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've taken a lot more of that on, especially if I'm following up, previous technicians who've done it, saying, here's X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Why didn't I find those painted sprinkler heads? We bought the building 3 years ago. I am really sorry. I don't know. They don't always look this way. We are finding different ways that we're going into the area in the building, so.
It's modern art. New aesthetics.
Just wanted to match the ceiling.
Oh, man. So another thing I'd like to talk to you about is probably, I'm not sure if you noticed coming into the industry, but we're very male-dominated in industry.
I don't see gender. No, I do.
Right.
It's very obvious in certain aspects.
So what was that path and approach? Pros, cons, the whole lot.
It's almost like, and I'm sure every person is different. Everybody will feel that they're always welcome to new people. There's obviously the knowledge gap, which can be a hindrance to building the relationship with people who are frustrated that you've gotten to come in and are in this position, and then they just go, well, what are you bringing to this? What's the benefit of you being here? Because if I have to teach you, what's the benefit? Do you know what I mean? So there's a little bit of the knowledge gap can create a relationship delay. So kind of having to figure out, again, we're talking relationships with people and personality types and how to make that work for me. So I had to do a lot of research on my own, show that I'm capable of doing that research on my own and obtaining that information, and then knowing who I can go to answer my stupid questions before I then move on. So it's really like this weird research project that I've had to kind of work my way through. And a lot of times, not being in the field can cause a little bit of a prejudice too, because they act, again, well, why do I have to explain this? What is her role? What is she doing here? Was a lot of the conversation that was happening, not to my face, unfortunately, because I'd be willing to be like, well, then tell me what's going to make this feel better for you and for me? How do I make this a beneficial situation for both of us? Because I'm here to help. That's my big thing. It's like, I'm here to help, but if you don't want to tell me where you need help or how we can make this work, I don't know whose fault it is on that point. So it's not really about fault. So I've had to work really hard to gain the credibility to even sometimes go and ask the question of like, hey, I've done all of this. What am I missing? I feel like I'm missing something. And then it was just really going out and shadowing when I could. Agreeing with the bosses. I want to get my time out in the field. I want to know what I'm looking at. I want to know what I don't know. And going out there. And so I was relying on the time and the kindness of some other people to get me the help, show me what they know. And then again, still working all that information in backwards.
So for those listening that don't know me, I'm a very transparent, blunt person, and I'm okay with uncomfortable conversations because I think that's where things go.
Yeah, they do.
So just from what you said with the knowledge gap, this is just I'm going to go for it with the question. We'll see where it goes.
Say the awkward thing.
Because I feel like I can't speak to the woman's side quite clearly. However, that knowledge gap I've also noticed to be generational. So how much of that do you find a balance between being a woman in the industry, which I think is a real thing and a struggle, and just that? Because the same thing with your millennials and the boomer is like, until
true.
you show me some effort, I'm not helping you, right?
It's definitely a personality type. I am a millennial, elder millennial, wear it proudly on my knees and my hips and all of that.
That's right. And music choice.
Very much music choices.
Why you got to call us out like that, Josh?
Hey.
I will, elder millennial, hardcore, elder emo millennial.
Let's go.
That's me. So
Panic at the Disco?
we were listening to Paramore on the way here.
That's
Like,
cool.
yep.
On the playlist.
Yep. I was there when it came out. I remember when. Pepperidge Farm remembers. So I've had to work to like, I've discovered some of it, and I've had work to almost ingratiate myself. So like, again, I'm playing to the stereotypes. I'm not opposed to that. And it's not a my way or the highway. It's the, how do we merge the highways, you know? And that's kind of what I've had to work towards, even with the communication skills with those who are on the older side of things, you know, the technicians who've been working for 20 years, trying to constantly, and I spend a lot of time going, I'm here to help you. I'm here to make your job easier. I'm not here to point fingers or point blame. I'm here to help us move forward. And I want you to be a part of that for as long as you plan on staying with this company. You know, even if you're on the retirement track, these are the things we're going to do, which is why I give little pieces and I do it little by little. So I'm not just like, here's all the stuff that you've been doing wrong that we need to then. Yeah. Put your helmet on. Let's go. I don't do that. Like, I know that it has to be a gradual thing. So I try to piece it all out and try to be like, hey, these are the things that we need to talk about, and here's why. And that's all they just don't want their flow disrupted more often than not. So I try to, go with the flow with them for a bit and try to figure out where I can then insert the information.
So do you personally think that this industry is conducive to successful women in careers? And if not, then why? I
think it can be. I think it very much can be. So my bosses, it's a husband and wife team, but she runs the company. So she's had to also come up through a lot of that without the benefit of the educational aspects that I've had, where she's had to ask her husband what's going on, and then she takes that information and then is able to move through a lot of that. So we do have a lot of the promotion of the female side of things. There's just not a lot of women who are trying to insert themselves into it, but we do, we will do the high school recruitment stuff just to put ourselves out there. It's like, hey, we're an option, we're an open trade shop. We're an option for you. We are somebody who you can come into, and even if you want to just get your hands dirty for a summer, let's roll, So understanding that, I've talked to my husband and I talked about our kids. We're like, oh, they're going to go to trade school. Yeah. They're going to figure out how to do the hard things, because those are life skills that they need to know. And I think that's part of it is they're not opposed to it. I just think they don't realize that they can do it. Right. So there's this sense of being willing to try the new thing, and then having the supporting staff inside of the company saying, we're welcoming the new thing, we're welcoming you or learning the new thing. So I think some of it is just, it doesn't feel as much gender bias as much as it is just the skill bias at that point. And that's, that can be universal. They're willing to take on a helper. You want to come be a helper? Let's learn to do the hard thing.
So you said you do some of the high school trades stuff. What does that look like? Like when you go out there, what are you doing to get people involved or interested?
So some of it, especially within our area, is a lot of word of mouth. So we have a lot of these guys who all graduated around the same time in high school have all come to work for our company. It's wild, honestly. And they're some of the best people that we've hired. So knowing, the quality begets quality, if you will. For the high school stuff, I did one recently, and even just the idea of, I've done marketing and stuff too. So I have a background in that side of things. So even just presentation of marketing, here's what I know that we need to look like when we're out somewhere, just to even have kids stop by the table. And a lot of them, I built a little apparatus that has different types of sprinkler heads on it. So it's got a gauge. You explain to them, because they don't know. There's still the knowledge gap in general about what sprinklers do. They think it's all pretty water that goes off when you pull the fire alarm.
And all of them.
All of them go off. They just it's nice water, and it's beautiful, clean water, and everybody's just drenched in the High School Musical aspect.
And the hair flutters in the wind of the
when they step outside and they throw it around. Yeah, and it's just explaining to them it's dirty work sometimes, and the sprinkler pipe water is not nice and it smells gross, and but this is how it works, and they want to know what is this? So I built a little apparatus that has them all there, sidewalls, pendants, uprights, and I bring it out and they're just like, this is wild. Like they have no idea. And so it was really, really cool to just be like, yeah, here's my card. You can submit an application online. We're hiring helpers. We're doing X, Y, and Z. And it was just kind of nice to be able to even get out there and kind of explain what sprinklers are. And it sounds silly, but it definitely, they walked away going, they would look up, and that's the thing. My husband makes fun of me. I look up every time I walk in somewhere. Yeah. Because I'm looking for the sprinklers.
So is your husband in the trades as well?
He is he works in sales in roofing and siding.
Nice.
So he'll walk out, we'll be driving somewhere, and he's looking at the roofs. Yeah. And and he's looking at the siding.
So he looks farther up.
Yeah, he looks on the outside. I'm inside.
Yeah.
So
my wife's a nurse, so she looks at people's arms for their veins. So it's completely opposite.
That's wild.
We look like creepers because I'm looking up and down because the safety guy as well. Right. And she's just looking at people's arms and these are strange.
The arms feels like a very specific thing to be staring at.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Is it like an optometrist when you're always looking at somebody's eyes? Probably. Or a dentist at people's teeth?
Yeah. I'm not an eye contact person. That'd be a bad job.
Have you gotten your kids excited about the sprinkler industry yet? Because I know I got my 2-year-old and 4-year-old. We'll be out at a restaurant and they'll all of a sudden we go, Daddy, look, a sprinkler.
Oh,
Everybody starts looking at it. It's like, well, what are you doing? And I was like, I feel like I'm winning as a parent when my kids are pointing out sprinklers
They're
out
like,
in public.
Safety, yeah.
But yeah, the odd looks from people. And again, it's just people don't think about our industry. So half of the recruitment challenge is just even
it's education.
People knowing that we're a viable option as a career in general. Because I even remember I learned about it from my mom when I was trying to figure out where to go to college, and I knew I wanted to do something mechanically inclined of some sort. Mm-hmm. She comes home and she goes, well, "What do you think about fire protection engineering?" I was like, "That's not a thing, Mom. That's not an engineering." I looked into mechanical and electrical and a bunch of the other engineering, and it wasn't until she had interfaced with a fire protection engineer at work that she's like, "This is even an option." And I was like, "That's not a thing, Mom. Like, good joke. It's not a thing." And it wasn't until I went and Googled it that I even learned this was a viable option, right? But I was like, I don't trust you to the point where I'm turning to Google to fact check my mom.
Trust but verify. Or not trust but verify. Either way, yeah. He took that from the heart, from the womb. No, but so they're not as excited about it. Mostly because I will walk through most places and I'm looking up. My daughter's like, she's 3 and she's just kind of like, "What's up there?" And I'm like, "Oh, just a sprinkler system." And she's like, "Oh, okay." So they kind of know what I do. So we'll walk into places and I do the same thing. And I'll be like, "Oh, this is one of my clients," and they'll just be like, "Huh, well, that's cool." And they go on to be little kids.
Where's the toys?
Yeah, pretty much. So for me, it's like, all right, this is protected. Are there fire doors when I'm going to their schools and things like that? Like, what's the safety measures? Because I know that they're there, but I now want to know. Right. So it's me just curbs my anxiety as a parent.
So has being on the sprinkler ITM side got you interested in some of the other fire protection systems?
Yes. So I want to learn more about the design thing. I don't like to stop at just like, well, this, as Eric says in the class, this is within your scope. I'm like, but what about this? Where does this come into play? Why is it designed like this? So that's kind of my next step, is just the educational side of the design aspect. Because I've looked my way through 13 a little bit, and we have really great designers who are very helpful.
That's fantastic.
So they are fantastic at, I have accessibility to our sprinkler drawings. So when we have new construction builds that we're trying to get inspection contracts for, I can just pull those up and they're beautifully labeled. I can read them very easily for the most part. The information I need, I can pull and have easy access to. And then if I need to verify what I'm looking at, I'll call them up and just be like, "Hey, I see you did X, Y, and Z location. Can you tell me for sure based off of the as-built, are there, floor controls, things like that?" So they're all really easy to talk to. They're still designers, so they're all delightfully nerdy most of the time, but
a little socially awkward.
Just a lot sometimes. But they're really very lucky that they can help out with that. So
So those who know Eric as the bow tie guy at convention and the sunglasses guy, trust but verify. I don't get to spend a lot of time with him in the classroom, I guess, is now a thing. So we'll find a bow tie that says trust but verify. If anyone's printing them, please send them our way. Yeah.
Or if we have one that just has sprinklers on it in general, I'm open.
Oh,
Yeah, he's
Taking deliveries.
The standard's real low on that. Just make them pretty with sprinklers.
So you had mentioned women not inserting themselves much in the industry. So
Well, to be fair, I say that as a very, like, knowing that I have not met a ton of women in the industry who
Right.
have been in the field as well. So I know that, like, I have not been able to socialize with a lot of other women. I've seen them and read about them in the AFSA magazine. I have, seen them in the conventions presenting, but I really truthfully have not run into a lot of women in construction trades in general. And so, I mean, recently driving around, there's a bunch of construction in our city that's happening, and they were digging up to put in a new Chipotle. And I was like, hey, there's a woman in there, like, then on the field crews, I'm like, there's a woman in there. And like, you see them and they are these like almost token things. And my customers also get really excited when they see a female in the field, so I've got a lot of building owners and the maintenance, like, they manage the buildings because they, women are pretty good at that stuff. So, but then having me on site, they're just like, I just love seeing you come out here. And it makes me feel really good too. Because it gives me that kind of like little oomph of like, the hard work that I've gone through is worth it, because I get to, continue to put forth that this is a viable option,
So how do we change that? How, in your opinion, because that's always something, is like, we're not as diverse in all aspects as I would hope that we
you
could
want to be.
right?
Yeah. It's not even just you would hope, but you want to be, because you want to get, you look at, I always think back to the way that men and women's brains think to the Watson and Crick when they discovered the structure of DNA. They could get pieces of it, but they couldn't see the other aspect of it until Rosalind Franklin came in. I believe that's her name, which is terrible that I can't remember. But it's a matter of how...
We've got our Jamie.
Trust
Jamie's
but
going to figure
verify.
that.
Trust but verify. So
Eric is.
So she was able to see, I think she took the crystallography of, and this is how I have a degree in biology, just to be fair, which is why I'm so nerdy about it. They knew what the general structure of it was, like the atom buildup, but she was the one who discovered, if I recall correctly, that it was twisted, that was what it was.
Helix.
The helix, thank you.
Yeah.
And that was, to me, it was like men and women see things differently. They still see the same thing, but they look at them differently. And that can be so beneficial. But some of it is, yes.
Look at you, killing it.
I'm so proud of myself for Mayor.
Rosalind Franklin.
I'm so proud. I remember that because I'm so worried as I'm sitting here talking about our women in the field that's going to mess her name up. So she just, to me, that's I always think about that, and it helps me remember the way that men and women think, because I look at things very differently than the way most men do, than like my husband does. The different field experiences that I've had in the different jobs. I like to process a lot of things really quickly within a room. My husband takes a lot longer. Men look at things, they'll look at how to build something, and then I want to take it apart and then rebuild it. Like I was in a backflow. I'm backflow certified. I got backflow certified after being here last year because we needed it in the field. And I was like, well, I can do that. That's the thing, is I can do that. I can fill in that role, which is also my downfall for a lot of things. But then, doing it and being like, I can execute these things for you. And I know how, I'm not afraid. That's the thing. I think people think that women are afraid to do the hard work. And it's like, no, just give me the tool. I can do it. Don't take it out of my hand. Don't get in my way. But how do you say that to somebody who is trying to be helpful? I can do those things, and it's okay for me to do them. So there's a few other organizations I know. I think there's the NAWIC, the National Association of Women in Construction. So they also exist. We have a chapter in Rochester that, we've got project supervisors on, women who have put together run entire buildings. So there's this idea that they know what's going on. And maybe that's somebody that we partner with in regards to getting more women involved. How, the recruiting events, to just be able to come out there and say, you can do these things too. You don't have to have calloused hands that only know, like you learn on the job too. So like even my parents were never, my dad, never really taught me like the different pieces. Like I know what a ratchet strap is, but like the different tools to use, I didn't always know that. So I learned a lot by watching the guys in the field and then getting the stuff myself and playing with it.
Going to try and make mistakes and fix those mistakes, and
I will say that
learning process.
Sometimes I feel like I have to prove myself more here, that I know what I'm doing, but I also then sit there and go, well, I'm just figuring it out still. I'm still learning it. I'm not going to always choose the right bit for it. I'm not always going to know which way the drill's going to go. So I had a guy who in our class this week, he gave me an impact, and I checked it to make sure it was in the right direction. He's like, "Did you just check that on me?" And I was like, "Yeah." Trust but verify. Trust but verify. And it was so, he would just kind of look at me. He's like, "Oh, I guess so." And I'm like, I don't know you that well. And I want to make sure that and it's not that he would ever set me up for failure, but I want to make sure that I'm not set up for failure. I want to know that the steps are in the right place. So some of it is just me wanting to get my hands in it and know that I can do it. And then also telling other women, you can do this. This is definitely an accessible field for you.
And there's all different jobs that can be done. Like we need people, and we need to train people, and we need a more diverse people. So just taking the step into get your first step in the door and having a support team is probably huge, right?
I think it does make a big difference. And I've had, it hasn't been a horrible transition. It hasn't been like completely wrought with misogyny or things like that. But it has been, I think, a little bit of the underlying misogyny of where's the knowledge gap that comes with it. And then also them just not wanting, they're like, "Oh no, I'll do that for you." And being like, no. I need to do this, and I can do this, and you can tell me if I'm doing it wrong. Don't stop me. And it feels like this weird, like amalgam between like having to tell your dad, like, no, I can do this. I'm old enough to drive, right. Kind of a thing. So it's been interesting in that regard, being like, I can go toe to toe with you if you don't get in my way either. And it's not a great. I think sometimes there's this graciousness that men try to do with women. And I don't want to get on like a soapbox about it, but I think that's what some of it is. It feels like as I start to really peel it apart.
So like the hold the door kind of aspect? Kind
of, yeah.
Okay.
Like trying to be, respectful to women, which you can be respectful, but still hold them on an equal aspect when it comes to doing the job.
Interesting. So you don't want to unpeel it, but I'm going to try to get you to, because I think this is important. I don't think.
Yeah, I haven't really had a chance to. I feel like I don't want to speak for every woman. I think it's the biggest thing, because my experience is different than anybody else's is going to be. And I'm very well aware of that. And even the gatekeeping aspect, it comes and goes, and it also depends on the person, and it depends on the job, and all. It depends. Like, what's the most common thing we say? It depends. And also trust but verify.
That's the answers in all of fire protection.
Yes. Oh my God. It was the most frustrating thing when I started. My boss would be like, "Well, it depends." I'm like, "Can't you just give me an answer?" Nope.
Something needs to be black and white.
Yeah. Nope. And I discovered it's always the exception to the rule and the rule to the exception. So I do think some of it is women are afraid to get dirty sometimes. And then there's also worrying that they're not going to be strong enough. Which, my hands, I have weak hands, like straight up. I realize I do not have strong hands. But that's what tools are for.
Right.
And learning how to use them. And the being taught, by my gracious technicians who helped get me up to speed. So I think that's part of it, is women not wanting to necessarily do a dirty job, but also realizing that they can do it. And still, ITM doesn't have to be a dirty job either. Do I get filthy sometimes because I get sprayed in the face with a backflow? Absolutely. But that's also my fault. So I recognize that. It's my mistakes. And then I think some of it is just the general gap and the fear of going into the construction field for women. So
interesting.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, in the general construction, there tends to be a lot of that misogyny.
Yeah. And being a subset, it naturally makes sense when you look at, I guess, statistically.
Yeah.
Interesting. You have anything? I'm just thinking through all this, because I will tell you that my man's brain, some of the stuff that you gave me, never thought in that direction.
That's exactly where I was
going. Right. Like I didn't even think of probably, I wouldn't say guilty of it, but there's so many times, and I was raised by a single mother, very strong single mother
Yes.
who rightfully so, I don't want to make this sound bad, pushed respecting women and going out of your way for women. And I don't think I've ever naturally noticed how it could be a detriment in certain environments.
There's things that I did in the lab this week where I had to kind of be like, no, I'll take that.
Right.
I can do it. And, you know, like they don't realize a lot of them they're just gracious. They're gracious men. You know,
Yeah.
They understand that we're in this together, but they also do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, can I do this? And like kind of had to be like, no, I'm going to do it. And they're like, well, watch your fingers. I'm like, I'm aware. It's
Yeah.
okay. I got it. So I think some of it is just, you know, the natural graciousness of men and how they respect women. But then also I do think that's part of it as we talk about it a little bit more. And I hadn't really thought about it myself until I started picking it apart just
Right.
now of like, oh yeah, no, they really do like they're trying to help, but it's like, I'm never going to learn. And so it goes back to like that basic level of being taught by your parents too, you know, like how you were raised and how your teaching aspect, like how did you learn? And I learned that I need to be hands-on in this stuff to figure out what I'm doing.
And you also have to speak up because how would they know? And then you don't get to learn. And it's deeper than just that. I'm being a gentleman at face value, right?
But you can also be gracious in saying, no, thanks, I've got it.
Yeah.
And then, but everybody has to have the understanding of there's no ego attached to it.
Right.
I think that's some men get their ego hurt when a woman tells them, no, I can do this. When it's more of a respect what she's able to do versus trying to save, you know? And we're getting into a lot of generalities here, to be fair. But yeah, so I just have run into some of that, you know, and I'm not a small female either. I'm almost 6 feet tall and I've been that way my whole life. And, you know, just trying to insert myself and take up the space. You know, there's a lot of conversations about women taking up space and being in the room. And that's my thing too, is like, I'm going to figure out what I don't know and I'm just going to do it. And I'm going to double check with those who know, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Is this right? You know? And I think they get men when they get leaned on, when you can say, hey, tell me about this, you know, am I on the same page as you? Explain this to me, but then let me also then handle the impact on it and I can take it apart myself.
Well, and to your point, this conversation is bigger than just fire protection.
It's so
right?
much
We're starting
bigger.
to get into some really, really big conversation here that I think is changing. And I think that just the interactions have changed.
Yes.
And I think some of it's, even going back to our point earlier on the generational thing, I think some of it's also generationally we're having different conversations and having different experiences.
Different roles. Historically
how
speaking.
the whole workforce is changing, the makeup of the workforce, the jobs people are doing, what those jobs entail, right? The whole work culture has shifted monumentally.
Yeah, that's very true.
I think everybody's trying to figure out how to navigate that now. And so some of these conversations are, you know, bigger than just fire protection.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it also comes back down to respect. And it's the respect for the older generations and the knowledge that they have, and understanding that no matter what your gender is, you're just trying to gather that information. And it's the same for when it comes to the gender aspect of your interactions. It's just respectful. Like you're just trying to work together. So let me tell you where respectfully I want to go, and here's how you can help me, and vice versa. You know, I think it can be done with the proper communication and the respect for the position and kind of how people also interact. So I'm a big person on understanding how people, you know, how they operate internally, what their boundaries are, respecting those, but then also how do I then, it sounds manipulative, but how do I then make it so that we can be mutually beneficial to each other?
Right.
So I think some of that has to also be included in that as we continue to develop and we see the older generations retire, they step away, they become the consultants, where that respect comes in regards to the knowledge flow and the future generations of whatever the company is. Because I am one woman in the Northeast who's working for this company. I'm not the first field technician. We did have a woman who was working in our construction side of things and the new construction, but I am one of the first that I know of that has been in the field for inspections. And even I don't do a ton of service, but I do a little bit. I'm starting to dabble in it and I want to learn more. I want to know how things are executed. So being in this program has been really helpful for garnering a lot of the confidence I have. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm lift certified now, that was one of the weirdest experiences. I mean, the company that did it for me was great, and the guy knew my name, but I was like, I am so out of my element here, and it felt so unnerving. But then it was like, oh, it's not just me, because I come into it being like, these guys know what they're doing, so they already know, and I'm going to look like a fool, and that's part of it, is looking like a fool and not feeling confident, and then just having to really swallow my pride and be like, I'm going to mess this up, and I'm going to have to figure that out. And there's a teacher here for a reason, and understanding what the whole concept of this is to learn. So let's just do it. So, yeah.
So that's the ego. And I think having conversations like this, people don't want to have the difficult conversation.
Oh, I call it out. I trauma dump everywhere.
That might be like a Northeastern thing, though, because we're like, hey, let's go for it.
Like, we're going to have the awkward, say the weird thing. Yeah. I'm going to say the weird thing.
And then we might have some colorful language back and forth, and then we're going to get a beer.
Yes.
Like, no issues, no hard feelings. But if we can overcome that and having conversations, I mean, your passion is awesome.
Oh, thanks.
A very magnetic personality to be around.
Never been called that before.
And it's just to have the conversation with you, I think, is something that listeners, even if two people download this, which that has not been our path for those out there.
It's going to be Josh and Eric are going to download it.
Nailed it.
Caught us. But can maybe open their minds and listen to your perspective. Hopefully we do these because to some of the cultural, political changes that have happened, it's almost been a stop on the dime, take that hard right turn with your helmet on.
Yep.
But we can also slowly hone that in, hopefully, and make a change.
Yeah, I think little things kind of help in that regard, because you don't want to blow the culture up, and I've seen, for perspective, some other property managers will come in, and the maintenance guy who's been there for 20 years, they kick him out of the office. They don't rely on that information. And it's like, there's that generational gap and that knowledge gap where it doesn't have to be like that. You can try to garner, you have to come in with a sense of grace to an extent. And that's not just for women, that's men, that's everybody, of how you ingratiate yourself and incorporate yourself into an existing culture. So that was one of the things I had to learn, was how to incorporate myself into this culture. What is this culture within our building, within our company, within the industry, and then navigate around that. And is it a lot of work? Yeah, sometimes it is. And it can be awkward and it's uncomfortable sometimes, but the more you're in it and the longer you're in it, and the more questions you ask and the more knowledge you gain and the more that you show that you're willing to be a part of the team, everybody starts kind of incorporating you into it. So some of it is also the culture aspect as well.
Which you'll hear when you talk to people, like, it's a brotherhood, which comes from the fire service days all this other things. And I get that. And I love that aspect of it, but it could be a familyhood or it doesn't have to be that.
Yeah. And even still, because you'll get the people who will be like, well, brotherhood's what it is. And it's, that's just the word we use. And that's totally fair. If that's going to make you feel better, so long as the women are included in on the emails and the text chains. That's right. All we really care about sometimes. Like, I'm not going to try to change the verbiage of what you're doing, but we can change the culture of it. Yeah. And it doesn't have to start with the word. It can start with just conversations internally. And like, I love Rochester because there's a lot of female firefighters, awesome. We have in the city. There's a good number of them. And, we see a lot of female AHJs in certain areas as well, and it's really cool. So I like the area that I'm in because I'm not a lone soldier, so to speak, which is nice.
It's a hard city for me to pronounce.
Rochester?
It's Rochester.
Well, it's because so the further east you go, the harder those A's get, and it's really nasally up where we are, so really it's Rochester a lot of times. But I'm from the South. I'm actually from Virginia, so I can lower it and go, it's Rochester.
Oh, that's fancy.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've heard Virginia being the South, but okay.
It's south of the Mason-Dixon, okay? Listen, we are south of the Mason-Dixon. It counts.
So is there any technology on the horizon that you're looking forward to make your job easier? Or where do you think we're headed?
I think we're headed to a lot more automation on certain things. The beauty of the sprinkler industry that I've found is it's basic physics. That's really a lot of what it is. And it's kind of, once I kind of dumbed it down to that for myself, it made it a little bit more accessible to start to garner what I wanted to know. But I think some of the simpler, like the testing methods that we have, like we were looking at all the different, and it sounds silly, but like just the simplicity of how to make fire pump flow testing and flow testing easier and not as cumbersome with heavy materials to do the testing. So seeing even that it's so cool. Like, oh, that is really rad. And even just like the pre-action systems, or even honestly, it sounds silly, but like just the Tyco where you can just push the little lever down and it resets the valve, and you're just like, that is so neat. So it makes me feel better because I'm like, that's really cool.
So for your Gen Z and Gen X, rad is fire. All right, I just wanted to put that out. Just put that out there in case there are some listeners.
And I guarantee you're even off on that.
Oh, 100%. My 17-year-old reminds me all the time. But
you're just so not cool.
Whatever.
So not cool. Loser, moron, which they don't get. No. To be fair, though, I have bought, total side note, on the millennial side, I bought my daughter a Spice Girls shirt. And so she loves Spice Girls. And I was like, my little heart is so excited about that.
The band shirts they're
coming back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So.
My 3-year-old caught on to Bieber, of course. Oh, so she's...
Mine's Spice Girls.
Bieber, Taylor
Girl
Swift.
power,
and
man.
Actually, what's the... Destiny Child. She likes
all right,
Destiny
there you
Child.
go. There's credibility back.
So there's a little bit there, but...
Say my name.
That's the song. She loves it.
Wait till she hears the Bills one. Can you pay my bills? Walking around saying that to her dad.
She was actually walking around the store singing that song, and I saw a few of... I guess, are we older now?
We are older.
We are older. I got mammed the other day. I got mammed, and that hit me so hard. And I was like, but I'm emotionally still 20, like this is not...
In the Northeast, that hurts people. When women get mammed, don't do it.
Listen, especially
Down
when
here,
I'm
it's
sitting here
normal,
talking to you, being like, hey, you play violin. It was a violin player, and it was like this 14-year-old girl. I was like, you play the violin really beautifully. I was like, I used to play the flute because I used to play the flute for real. And she's like, oh, thank you, ma'am. And I was like, oh, bitch.
Yeah. That age.
I'm out of here. Peace. And it was she was trying to be respectful, but I was like,
innocently.
whoa.
Yeah, that's bad.
I still look at your TikToks and everything,
Yeah.
all right? I'm still in the know for the most part. I just don't say the weird words.
I have some Drake references for fire pumps, and a couple classes in a row, they just ignored me, right? I'm like, there was no... If it's not funny, you don't laugh, that's fine, but there's typically some sort of facial expression. None of them had any clue.
It's got to be Kendrick Lamar now. Drake's out.
Don't even... Whatever. So is
this
there
is the cultural podcast now?
This is it. We've hit so much. That's what I love about this podcast. Is there any advice you would give to anyone who hasn't heard of the fire sprinkler industry, or is like dabbling, or?
I would just say it's honestly, the people who are in it are passionate about it. More often than not, they really enjoy it. The days that are bad, they're bad, but the days that are good, they tend to outweigh them. So like I said, even like the passion that our owners talked about it is what got me to leave my radio job and just randomly jump ship and go to a new company that I'd never worked with. So it's a matter of, I think it's a lot of having the strength within yourself to go, I know that I don't know anything about this, but I want to know. And I think that's part of it. And that can be applied to the majority of life, but especially when it comes to the fire sprinkler, knowing that it's there and knowing that it's there for a reason and knowing that it can help save your life is kind of huge too. To think about like being in a house that doesn't have them is a little scary sometimes, so it's arming yourself with the information to be successful. And even just going in and learning what people know is just do the thing. Just say the weird thing, do the thing you're scared of, and don't leave that stone unturned.
Typically turns out good.
It does. Yeah. It really does.
Yeah. So is there any last words of advice to our listeners? Or
trust
thoughts?
But verify.
Trust but verify. Wear a bow tie.
Oh, and it rhymes.
You're getting a t-shirt soon.
Yep. I might just send you one. You never know. I got some good printers up in the Northeast.
Perfect.
I would just say that, we're all in this industry together. It doesn't matter. And that's the thing I've been kind of touting. And the way that we're approaching a lot of things now, especially within our country, our company, is we are here to do this all together. We're the same company. We're all a part of the goal is the same. The goal will always be the same. It doesn't matter what role and position you're in. There's not a matter of trying to take somebody's job. And it doesn't even matter what the culture is at that point within your company. We're all there for the same reason. And it is to provide the fire and safety protection for the customers. So outside of that, and like in the lower levels of the culture, that's on you guys. But for the most part, like, we're all part of the same team. That's why you work at the same company. You wear the same company shirt. So culturally, if it doesn't fit for you either, to knowing that you can step away and finding another place that suits you better, knowing that you can, I mean, those Gen Zs and Gen Alphas are, they know that if it's not working, they're out.
They're done. 2 minutes in. No,
deuces, they're gone. Yeah, for real, right? But I mean, you get the good ones, and there are the younger generations that want to do it. So giving them a chance and giving them the courtesy of the opportunity as well is a big one. So not just men or women, it's everybody, generations, all of that. So
we really appreciate you being on.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I like to talk.
Yeah.
Clearly.
We look forward, and if we can help out with any of the design stuff, and we look forward to what you guys are doing up there in Rochester.
Yeah, you got to come up and visit.
Yeah,
have a garbage plate. It's a long story on that one.
Maybe.
Talked about food cuisine the other day, and was like, oh man, they're not going to like it up there.
Yeah, buffalo wings.
Yeah, we got better buffalo wings. Sorry, Texas.
Sure.
Buffalo wings are much better up there.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Catch you later. This has been the K Factor Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share wherever you tune in to podcasts. Or head over to our website for more. Reach out to us anytime at technical@firesprinkler.org. Stay safe and always learn as we keep the fire protection conversation going.